next up, we have one of our projects at Five College Digital Humanities. This project is a historic dress project from the Center for the Study of Clothing, Costume, Fashion, and Culture. They got stuff. They have swag. Here to talk to us today are Kiki Smith and Elisa Lanzi. Kiki Smith is Professor of Theater at Smith College, and Elisa Lanzi is the Digital Strategies and Services Director, also over at Smith College.
Pretty.
I'm going to move the slides. How about that?
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that's
Oh, okay.
the button. All right. Well, it's so great to see a number of people I've met in the library world through this project. Anyway, I am Kiki Smith from the theater department, Elisa from the digital
Strategies and Services,
Thank
Smith
you.
College Libraries.
We're missing one of our wonderful colleagues, Marla Miller, who was in the history department at UMass. She couldn't be here today, but we gathered together to establish a site to support research on historic clothing and to examine the advantages of teaching with tangible objects versus the digital images of them. Now this is we had 3 of these grants, I want to say, so we're
Thank you.
Okay. But for all 3 other grants, thanks to this program, we were joined by 4 other scholars, including Marla's colleague at UMass, John Olson, who is a specialist not only in German history, but also digital media in the classroom. The other scholars were very vital to this. Nancy Rexford, who is an independent scholar of the history of American dress and whose work and research we used as a basis of this site. Tom Scheinfeld, who'd been a managing director at the Roy Rosenzweig Center for History and New Media at the George Mason University, and where he was involved in a number of different digital history programs, including the development of the Omeka platform, which we adopted for this project. He's now Director of Digital Humanities at UConn. I'd love to get him up here to the 5 colleges. And Arden Kirkland, who like myself is a costume designer, but drawn into clothing history and her collection for her of dress at Vassar College. So why study dress in the first place? Well, it's a very important part of material culture. And we believe that it can open discussion about past lives, about economics and trade, about technology, certainly social structures, certainly women's roles, and a whole lot more. But we quickly determined that there is a real void of resources to facilitate research on this subject. This is a subject that has full of jargon and vocabulary and lots of techniques, many, many different ones from all over the world, plus very subtle changes and class differences that are not readily apparent to a casual study. So we want this site to help fill this void, expanding opportunities to learn about clothing. So this grant helped us to design a prototype to hold samples of various resources that are important to research. For instance, we set up a format to hold primary source printed images, as well as links to journals and early magazines, photographs and paintings to help recognize important details. Here's a couple of examples of some 19th century journals. Here are different examples of women's clothing of everyday work.
That's our Omeka site right there. You see the typical Omeka items. So we designed this site to hold collections of high-resolution photographs of actual garments in collections, as well as the illustrations. This slide shows one photo of a 19th century shawl, which is one of 40 examples on our site. And it's a photograph taken by Nancy Rexford, our resident scholar, who actually visited many museums and took pictures of objects that were not on view in storage or otherwise not accessible. These examples reveal the subtle class differences as well as the gradual changes of styles over the century. We're also planning in this project, Kiki talked about the vocabulary, planning on glossaries of terminology, a visual thesaurus having to do with clothing, and we have an idea about a tool that would teach people how to date clothing. In fact, I just saw something on a website that sells undergarments yesterday, and I sent it to Kiki, and it has a great quiz about does your bra fit this way? And then you keep going, and then what is this, how does it happen? And it takes you through all these different things about undergarments, and then you have an answer, you can identify what your perfect undergarment is. And I thought, how can we apply that to historic dress? We must be able to. So it's kind of a cool
what the
thing.
Mellon Foundation has funded.
Yeah, right. So we've had really great outcomes because we've worked with so many people. I can't even mention all of them. Lots of students from across the colleges, faculty across the colleges, courses, and great outcomes. This is a page from our blog, which is in WordPress. And this is where students and staff and faculty put out reports about our progress and challenges along the way. Marla Miller and John Olson also taught a course at UMass combining the history of American dress with digital techniques, and this is one of their blogs. Their blog entries are great, Marla's especially. So there was a range of student involvement from the beginning. Here's a group of 5 college students comparing paisley patterns with Nancy Rexford to learn to notice details of styles. The students also learned about taking high-resolution photographs of garments, scanning of printed images, determining what metadata is vital to save and how best to organize it. They learned about platforms like Omeka and the pluses and minuses. We also had a little Pinterest project going at the same time. Several of these students have graduated and quickly been employed based on these skills. In fact, the student we have right now confessed she wants to go to library school next year.
Yes.
What better outcome could we have? So.
But we've had other great outcomes. We found colleagues in different parts of the academic system to help advise us about this. This is a photograph of a meeting that was actually held here at Amherst in January, I believe it was, with representatives of most of the museums and collections in the Valley, from all the colleges to historic Deerfield. And they were actually delighted to have a chance to develop new ways to entice faculty into their collections for class use. We also met with many of, I see these friends here now, research librarians from the 5 colleges who can help to develop LibGuides, is that the way they're called? Yes, for faculty in their classes to facilitate student research projects.
So finishing up what's next, we had an opportunity to do a trial in a collection management tool called Shared Shelf, which is one of the tools of ArtStore. And we're really interested in using this tool not only as a kind of repository and database for our cataloging, but we're interested in getting our unique materials out into something like the Digital Public Library of America. And ArtStore Shared Shelf is one of those hubs, and it's a gateway. 2 other reasons we're interested in working in this larger aggregated environment is testing out the terminology that we use and comparing it to the terminology that other costume collections use, as well as testing out the metadata schemas that are available for cataloging material culture. And we're actually coming up with an idea of something called Costume Core, which is a metadata schema specifically for cataloging clothing and costumes. So there's lots more interesting things to come. And thank you so much, Five College Digital Humanities, for those 3 grants. Appreciate it.